You're listening to Guided by Love, Not Fear. A space where we slow enough to hear the truth beneath the noise. A space where your feelings make sense. A space where you're already enough, even if no one ever taught you how to believe that. If this resonates with you, it's not a coincidence. Maybe you weren't looking for a podcast. Maybe someone shared this with you. Maybe it simply found you at the exact moment you need it. That alone tells you something. Today's episode is personal, not because my story matters more than anyone else's, but because it may help you to remember your own. Many people live with a quiet sense that something in their story doesn't fully add up. Not because something traumatic happened in an obvious way, not because there is a single moment they can point to and say, that's where everything broke, but because there is a persistent feeling, a subtle discomfort, an emotional background noise that never fully goes away. We are not talking about the facts. We are talking about adaptations. Not about what's wrong with you, but about what happened to you. This space doesn't exist to fix you. It doesn't exist to push you. It doesn't exist to tell you what to do. It exists to help you to understand yourself, to look honestly at what you learned to do in order to survive, and how those same patterns still shape your life today. You are not alone, and you are not broken. I want to talk about where the feeling of not being enough begins. Before the adult mind, a quiet world of a child, a world where we feel everything before we can explain anything. When I look back now, I don't see dramatic moments of pain. I see something softer, more subtle, but just as powerful. A little boy who felt too much and didn't know what to do with all those emotions. Maybe you grew up in a family where emotions weren't talked about, or where they talk about, but only certain ones. Maybe there was food in the table, structure, stability on the outside, but there wasn't space to feel without making someone uncomfortable. This matters because many people feel guilty recognizing this. They think it wasn't that bad. Others had it worse. I shouldn't complain. But the body doesn't compare stories. The body only knows whether there was emotional safety or not. I grew up in a home where absence hurt as much as presence, where silence carried as much weight as words, where adults had their own battles, their own wounds, their own storms. As a child, nothing about that felt unusual. Your home is your entire universe. You assume everything happening around you is normal. Many of us grew up in the same house, at the same table, with the same people, but not the same experience. Because in a family, not everyone occupies the same emotional space. Some children learn their role is not to bother. Others learn their role is to mediate. Some learn to be strong. Others learn to observe in silence. None of this is a choice, but it's an adaptation. The child doesn't adapt because they want to. They adapt because they need connection. If connection depends on staying quiet, the child becomes quiet. If it depends on shrinking, the child shrinks. If it depends on not feeling, the child learns to not show feelings. There is something few people name a silent contract. One that says, you belong as long as you don't inconvenience anyone. You are loved as long as you don't feel too much. You are safe as long as you don't ask. No one says this out loud, but children feel it. They feel in the tones, they feel it in interruptions, in what gets ignored, in what gets welcome. So the child learns something very specific, not consciously, but in the body. They learn which parts of themselves are welcome and which are not. Joy might be welcome if it's small, sadness tolerated if it's brief, but needing often feels dangerous. So the emotion doesn't disappear, it just loses its language. It goes inward. I didn't have words for what I felt. I didn't know if it was sadness, confusion, or exhaustion. I just knew my stomach felt tight a lot of the time. My chest felt heavy. I carried questions that didn't make sense to adults and emotions that didn't match my age. I remember sitting in the patio of our home, the heat on my skin, the smell of the old house, the sounds of animals. Long hours passing. I remember holding my breath without knowing why. There were moments I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. Not in my body, not in my home, not in the world. I felt lost watching life happening, not knowing where I fit. One day as a child, in a moment of confusion, I asked my mother one of the hardest questions a child can ask. Why am here? Why did you have me? But she didn't hesitate. She said, you're here because I wanted you. You came from my love. I dreamed of you. I didn't fully understand then, but something shifted inside my body. A small light in the center of my stomach, the same place where fear used to tighten. That truth stayed with me quietly, even as life slowly tried to teach me the opposite. Because life had expectations, silence, shame, family roles that shape us without our consent. Moments where adults reacted from their wounds instead of their wisdom. And gradually, the life forms. Maybe I'm not enough, not all at once, in small moments, but repeated. Later, it shows up as anxiety without a clear cause. Relationships that felt close, but not intimate. Exhaustion for constantly adjusting yourself to the space you are in. Many people say, I had a good childhood, and that can be true, but emotional absence doesn't always feel like trauma. Sometimes it feels like something that never happened, something that you can't point to. So blame turns inward. You call yourself too sensitive, too intense, too needy. But what you carry is not a flaw, it's an intelligent adaptation. It took me years to understand this, to see the adults around me were surviving their own childhood traumas. As a child, I didn't know that. I only knew how small and unsure I felt. That feeling followed me into adulthood, into friendships, and into relationships, into over explaining, over performing, over apologizing. Because somewhere deep inside me, I still believe I wasn't enough. That belief shapes everything. It makes us seek validation instead of connection. It makes us afraid of being seen. It teaches us to shrink ourselves into shapes that were never ours. Life doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be familiar. I want to name something important. Often, it's not that love is missing. It's that emotional space is missing. When a child tries to express their feelings and a parent responds defensively, the message the body receives is simple. Your feelings don't fit here. So the child learns to protect themselves. Avoidance can look like strength from the outside, independence, capability, but inside is a constant management, managing closeness, managing emotions, managing expectations. Not because you don't care, but because closeness once felt unsafe. The body remembers what the mind had to forget. I say this carefully, not from weakness, but from understanding. Emotional exhaustion is not a failure, it's a tired nervous system. Once I realized this, something inside softened, the shame loosened, the confusion eased. Because when you realize the lie wasn't born in you, you realize that you're free to let it go. That's where guided by love, not fear, truly begins. Fear is learned, absorbed, inherited, but love is remembered. Love lives in the body, in the breath, in the quiet knowing that whispers, you were always enough. If your stomach softens now, if your breath deepens, if something inside you feels seen, that's not me. That's your body remembering itself. You are not here by accident. You are not a burden. You are not broken. You are enough. You were enough the moment you existed, and you will be enough the rest of your life. This is only the beginning. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being open. Thank you for choosing, even in the smallest way, to live guided by love, not fear.